Take us away, Ben. Like, who are you? What do you do? And
I've been a carpenter for about almost 18 years now. I started school-based apprenticeship. It's basically all I've ever done.
how did you start thinking about it differently?
Yeah, so I started to break it down, and it wasn't until I properly started with TBB and I actually understood my numbers.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you had to face?
100% it was having the guys there that you could trust.
You said before you've got a couple of non-negotiables when looking for people, like, what are they for you?
So communication is obviously a big one for me. You need to be looking for people that I think are humble.
What does success look like to you? What are you trying to build?
I mean,
What have been some of your more expensive or frustrating mistakes that you've made and you want to avoid?
definitely the variation process for us.
You're investing a lot into the business. How big do you want it to be?
Well, like,
Take us away, Ben. Like, who are you? What do you do? And what kind of brought you to the program and got you here?
So I have been a carpenter for about almost 18 years now. I started school-based apprenticeship. It's basically all I've ever done. Through that time, I've been doing like a lot of class 10 work. I had a plenty of experience on commercial jobs and things like that. Done a bunch of residential builds and things like that. But in the last sort of couple of years, as I sort of transitioned from a glorified carpenter into actually running a company and trying to figure out how my business actually works, I've done my builder's license. So I got my builder's license. And when I started the program, I was a carpenter, aspiring builder. And then about 6 months of the program, not even, I got my builder's license. I'd already done all the training, got my Cert 4, but hadn't actually been signed off. The main reason I came into the program is because I saw that my company was growing and there was money coming in, but I really had no idea. I was like, oh, there's money coming in. I'm doing fine. Like, I'm paying the bills. It's all good. But I really didn't have an understanding of what my margins were, like operating costs. Everything was just all over the place. So the biggest thing for me has been basically, speaking about mindset, is essentially changing my view from, well, I'm a carpenter, how much do I need to get a week to get by and to pay the bills, to having a more holistic view over the company, to going, okay, well, how much profit is the company actually making? How much do I want to see come through in a year, like a 12-month period, and looking at it holistically to be like, okay, well, I actually need to sell X amount of product to make X amount of dollars in a 12-month period. Being able to stand back and have more people around you analyzing everything through the process.
So good. So really interesting insight here. So like, when you're a carpenter, you kind of like, what's my day? How much am I making each day? Am I clearing enough each week? But you're saying that taking that step to business owner, you started looking at it and planning backwards or reverse engineering from profitability annually sort of thing, or by project even. Like, is that right? How did you start thinking about it differently?
yeah, so I started to break it down, and it wasn't until I properly started with TBB and I actually understood my numbers. I knew, like, when I started, it was like I didn't know where everything was. Once I'd gone through, done the calculations, it was okay. My operating expenses were a little high. My margins were fine, but because at that point we were basically just doing decks, like 100% just decking company. So it is a niche market. So your margins do need to be a little bit higher than being a residential builder. So I was like, okay, well, we've got room to grow there. And I was like, well, what's the easiest way? I had like a little bit of a shortfall with the operating expenses. I know I needed to make about 4%. I think I was sitting at about 16, 17% when I started. And I basically was like, okay, I'm just going to put my prices up by 12%. Because I knew my meter rates, I had all my pricings down. I was like, that's really the shortfall that I need to get a little bit more profit and pay for the shortfall. And I stripped back all the stuff that I didn't need in my operating. And yeah, and we just started picking up more work and got busier and busier. So that's sort of how I crossed that bridge and solved that problem.
Dude, this is going to sound so stupid, but like, I've always got chills because you're literally talking like such a business owner. You're like, I was at 17%. I knew I had a shortfall of 4%. I knew I needed to improve this, so I raised it by 12%. Like, there's a difference between people that play the game and those that know the game. And like, you know your game because you know your numbers, right? You talk to somebody that isn't serious and they talk in generalities. They're like, oh, I needed to change this or improve that, and that kind of worked out here. You're like 12%, 4%, was it 16? Needed to do this. So I did it. I knew my number. I'm just like, oh, so good. It's like genuinely so nice to hear because that's such a tell on somebody that knows their shit because they'll speak in specifics. And you're just right here speaking specifics in the language of business, which is our numbers. Like,
Yep.
I'm fired up. I'm so pleased to hear it. So that's translated into you knowing your numbers, you feeling a little bit more comfortable and confident and stuff. So like, walk me through some of the other changes that you've gone through in your career. So like, you've been in carpentry forever. You started the program 6 months later, you got your ticket, you knew your numbers, you had to raise your price. You started getting real dialed in on that. What came next? Like what's next on the timeline?
Well, sort of parallel to that, when I started, I just initially, because I've been seeing some content float around before I started the program. So I was looking at everyone's wow packs and things like that. I was like, I need something like that. So I'd already sort of half done that when I started. So at the start, I was figuring out the numbers, getting the material down. I call it like a project plan, which is just like my initial quote. And it's got information about the project. It might have a little drawing. It's got, just like certification process. It's got the variation process. I've got all that information there. And then I have like an ultimate guide to decking, which is more of the wow pack. You see finishes and things like that. And that's really helped me. Like, as soon as I started using that, I saw a significant increase in the amount of jobs that we were winning. Because I was sitting at about 20% around that, 2 out of 10, you're just like getting the jobs. And then when I started doing that, I saw a massive increase and I was like at like 40% almost overnight. And then also in the set, and I don't know like how it all has sort of worked, but at the same time, all the average cost of the projects that have been coming in, I've been getting a bunch of like commercial work with tier 2 builders as well. So the average contract prices increase. But now I'm at a spot where it's like, okay, we're moving into sort of more renovation stuff as well, because ideally that's where we would like to be long term. So transitioning into that, I'm now at the same place I was sort of in the beginning, trying to get all this material sorted out for that. I'm also in the process where I'm like, well, my work is no longer directly related to each job. So now I'm in the process of getting my salary moved over into operating costs. So I'm starting to make those adjustments and get to that point there where I'm sort of overseeing, because when I started, I was on the tools every single day. And even up until about 3 months ago, I was very heavily on the tools. But now I'm like maybe 80% off the tools, 20% on.
Well done. So
Yeah,
good.
which is great.
Yeah. Like, so that, you went from 20% close rate to 40% close, but that's actually a doubling, so that's almost like a halving of the workload on some of the other stuff, but a doubling of the results. Like, really love it. And then tell me like, getting off site, it's a real process. What were some of the biggest challenges that you had to face in doing that? Is it finding good guys? Was it trusting them? Was it mindsets? Like, what was it for you?
100%. 100%. It was having the guys there that you can trust. Like, I've worked with a bunch of carpenters, and everyone has their pros and cons. But at the start, you're sort of looking for this complete package. You're basically looking for yourself in people. But you start to realize that everyone has pros and cons, and you sort of need to sort of pick and choose the ones that I think are going to work best for the position that they're in. And then either look for other people to close those other gaps, or, there's obviously some characteristics that are non-negotiable, but everyone's a little bit different, and you sort of learn people a bit more when you've got them working for you. So
Yeah.
that's been the biggest thing. Yeah. And we've found, so now I've got 2 guys. My main guy, Brandon, he's just like an absolute gun. He's basically supervising the jobs now. Super trustworthy, just as committed to me. He came same background, running his own company, doing his own stuff. which we're still both doing in the background as well. So
Mhm.
we're still figuring out how that works. We've tried a few different ways of how we basically run projects together.
Mhm.
But that's been probably the biggest help in the business, having people that are committed to its success, getting something for its success as well.
Yeah,
It's
that's
been
so good. You said before you've got a couple of non-negotiables when looking for people, like, what are they for you?
So communication is obviously a big one for me. It's really frustrating when you're not getting the info you need about a project, or there's things that get delayed, and then the next day you're chasing something up that should have come through the day before. And obviously quality of work are my two big main ones. Like, you got to know how to do your job, and you got to know how to communicate either to the client or to myself.
Yes.
And I
So
think that
how do you train or coach on those two areas? Because there's heaps of ways that, like, because, those are both inherent skills that we want people to come to the table with, like batteries included. Like, like, I'm a good communicator, I'm good quality of work, but we don't want to be taking fours, like people that are 4 out of 10s, and turning them into like 7 out of 10s. We want to be finding 7 out of 10s and turning them into 10 out of 10s. So what do you do to help them move up and get
yeah. So I think like quality work's pretty easy to teach, I think. But you need to be looking for people that I think are humble, I reckon.
Sure.
Because I think if you're humble, you're sort of like, you're moldable, you want to get better, you understand that maybe you're not the best, you have that learning mindset,
Mhm.
which, a lot of people do have that.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
so that's been the biggest thing, but also just like, and what I'm doing at the moment is just getting our SOPs sorted out for the company so everyone understands what's required of them. But they're not trying to learn it on the fly. Make it very clear, like, what the position needs and what's expected of them, like how we do communication. Are we doing site meetings every Monday? Are we doing them every day? Like, what's required of everyone?
Yeah. Expectations. Setting really clear expectations helps to hold accountability. People that know me know that I'm a bit of a broken record on accountability being an equation.
Mm.
Expectations, measurement, and feedback. So if we don't set expectations, we don't measure those expectations, and we don't give feedback regularly and often, there is no accountability. If we do those three things, accountability jumps up massively. And what you're talking about here uh, is the ability to sort of like hold a higher degree of accountability via expectations. And like, are we doing site visits daily or weekly, or what does it look like? Like, let's set their expectations. And then sometimes it's as easy as, is it done or not done on their measurement piece? We said we're going to do a site visit every day. Is it done or is it not done? Do we do it or do we not do it? And then the ability to have that space to give that feedback, or be comfortable enough as a leader in having those tough conversations and be like, yo, Ben, like, I see that you've missed site visit twice this week and it's only Thursday. Is there a reason
Yeah.
for that? Like, what's going on? So, learning mindset for us, we look for people that are over indexed in intensity and curiosity. So, curiosity is like, why? How does this work? Why is that like that? Tell me more about this. They're like almost borderline obnoxiously annoying about how many questions they ask because they're super curious. And then intensity is like feedback loop. We don't want people that are be like, oh, cool, I can totally get that done next week. Well, what's stopping you from getting it done today? Like, how do we do shit immediately? How do we measure on hours and days, not, weeks and quarters, sort of thing? I'm curious though, connected to success is another term you used before. What does success look like to you? What are you trying to build?
I mean, professionally, like, I'm trying to build a company that obviously can sustain my family, can sustain the people's families inside the company as well. Like, our vision for our new stuff would be ideally to get into the more higher end projects,
Mhm.
which it's definitely a big journey, but I've been on it, for 18 years, coming out of basically just doing decks and just trying to do the best deck you possibly can. You're working with a limited amount of finishes to then, getting little opportunities, doing like more involved projects or more complicated stuff, to now where at the moment we're about halfway through our first architectural build. and it's been awesome. Like, it's been going really good. Clients are absolute legends. They've been super nice through the process. The architect's great. Communications like running high through that thing, which is awesome. And in saying that, there's been so many learning curves as well, because it is a different ball game for us.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've taken the steps to sort of be like, well, we got to do this. Like, let's give it a proper shot. So ideally, big vision for us would be in the next year or two to sort of get under an architect or two. So all the marketing that we're doing under our new brand, which is ARKH, we're basically designing our marketing to target architects. Yes, it's going to have an appeal for clients or potential clients, but we just really want to zoom in on how we're doing stuff, like get the close-ups of the finishes, make sure that all that stuff's popping. So yeah, all the stuff that they want to see, make sure you can do your job.
Maybe it's just I've had too many coffees this morning, but like,
Well, I'm right there with you. I've had 3.
yeah. Like, I love this as well because what you're doing is so clever. When you're talking about, you have the same, and we've seen this many, many times, same business, team, operations stuff, or maybe divide the teams into decks and then architectural stuff. But you've kind of got 2 front doors, because the person that's building a beautiful high-end renovation or new home doesn't really want that home to be delivered by,
Correct.
the master
They
deck.
can cover it. Yeah.
Exactly. But what you've done is you just kind of like got 2 front doors. You got 2, like, so walk me through this. Like, what's the marketing strategy? Like, you're getting 2 websites, they're 2 different names. Are they under the same company, or are they 2 separate companies? How have you sort of decided to set it up?
So at the moment, the new one's just a trading name at the moment.
Yeah.
The decking so it's all under the same ABN. The decking company has been running for a while, like we talked about. All the materials there, it's all pretty funneled. I've got the marketing for that is basically a targeted keyword Google search ad for a couple of words, which have performed really well over the last 3 years. And then we started SEO work on those keywords to eventually get them organically, and then we can sort of turn those ones off, reduce costs there, and then have our presence online, organically through Google search.
Yeah.
So we only started that, it wasn't that, I think it was about 5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
And we've gone from like page 8 to page 2. So it is working. But it's definitely a process. Whereas with the new banner, ARK, we're just in because this is our first project where we can really show off a lot of that stuff. We've got other stuff around the place that we can sort of bring together.
Yeah.
But this is the first one we're like, okay, well, let's get a media guy in early stages so we can film the process. We can get the finishing starts. We can do the testimonial with the clients at the end and just sort of create a platform with this. And then in the background, we're building the website. We're getting all that stuff organized. So then we can actually have the material to then, okay, let's go. Let's try and, pick up some more work where we want to be.
Yeah. It's great, dude. Like, and it's a method that we see many times over with a bunch of different members as they sort of grow out or into other types of projects. And at the end of the day, as a business owner, we kind of specialize in margin, like specialize in profit, sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with doing decks, fences, small renovations, or anything like that, as long as they're profitable and we can repeat and recur the business and we can like systemize it nicely. There are some downsides to it. Like, you have to go through a lot of projects to hit target turnovers, therefore get target profitability. And you've got to make sure that you are doing them at great margins, because if they're at low margins, then it's a very, very difficult business to win in. But there can be great businesses as well. Like Dougal, one of our boardroom members, he has a fencing company that does heaps of fences. And you're like, as a standalone business, it's kind of average. You got to go through a lot of fences. But when it's bundled into, it's one part of the business, and then the other part is like all of the other construction project that we do. But these are 2 different front doors into the same company, sort of thing. We see it time and again. We got Far North Builders, Far North Dream Homes, stuff like that. So, and they target different parts of the market. So I really love what you're doing there. It's really cool. To take a step back though, you were defining success as, like having a vision that's big enough to support your team within it and things like that for your family and whatnot. Walk me through kind of like, the team. You mentioned Brendan before. Is that right? Was it Brandon?
Brandon, yeah.
We've got Brendan on our team. He's a savage. He's probably editing this video, actually. I better say that he's a good guy. But walk me through like who you might need to bring onto the team next, what that looks like. You know, you talked about a marketing partner, in-house, agency. Walk me through kind of like your team and your next hires.
Yeah, so I feel like all that sort of background stuff with marketing and the SEO stuff is all sort of done. We're pretty happy with how that's gliding along.
Nice.
Our next hire would definitely be another carpenter.
Mhm.
So we've got sort of 3 to 4 carpenters at the moment on a couple of different projects. So that's, and it's really hard. It's trying to find good guys like Brandon and I, where we can bring them up and sort of service the company through them. But I think the end game for us would be to do our own developments. That sort of like would be the dream. But it's hard to sort of see that vision at the end of the tunnel at the moment, because as the company keeps scaling and every year it just keeps growing and growing, there's more money that just gets pulled back into the company and pulled back into the company. So it's like, where do we get it to a point where we can just sort of glide for a bit and actually start to, stop growing essentially, which is probably not the best thing to say. But at some point, I feel like I want to get to a comfortable point where I say, I want to start taking money out of the company rather than just keep putting it back in and scaling and growing.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like, you don't get rich at some future date. You get rich incrementally over time. And that's why it is important to understand like how much we need to pull out of the business as we go and what that sort of looks like. I was looking at some of your Fathom reports as well, though. Like, you got some reasonable kind of cash ratios sort of thing, 7-to-1 and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're investing a lot into the business, looking to grow it. How big do you want it to be?
Well, so we've been running the company officially for 5 years, and it started off quite small, like every company does. And basically every year we've doubled and gone through that process to now the goal is to grow 50% this year.
Yep.
Which we're very well on track to do that already with what's in the pipeline. So
Sure.
we've got $1 million worth of work at the moment, all locked in, ready to go, and that'll spill over to like Feb next year. And some other stuff that will just keep going in the background. There's a couple of days here and there. So I feel like that's sort of where we want to get to. But at some point, we will have to start pulling some stuff out. But the ratios in the company's good. The reports are looking pretty good. But even then, there's still work to do, because I had a little blip with some of the accounting stuff last week, just the way that some invoices reconciled. So it actually looks like I had a loss in for July, but then August was like up 446%, just because there's been a lot of money coming in and not a lot going out last month. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean that's where the march towards mastery as a business owner is never over. There's always areas that we can improve, we can tweak, we can refine, we can get better at, sort of thing. Having a good understanding of like knowing that there's never a quote unquote finish line. There's only ever sort of, like this part is good for now, and then a delegation of outcome to somebody at a certain point, so that you can,
well, that's the big thing about on the other side of that is obviously like getting your time back and being able to actually step back away from the company, because it's all well and good running a successful company, but if you're like in it 80 hours every week just grinding out and you can't really come up for air, then that's definitely not sustainable. So I'm all about playing a long game too. Like, I don't need to just like have something blow up over a year. Like, this has taken me almost 20 years to get to this point. So, and I'll just keep chipping away at it, play the long game.
Yeah, so good. So tell me, like, what do you think have been some of the most impactful systems and strategies, either from TBB or elsewhere in the market? Like, what do you run your business on?
So we've got we use Fergus for most of our stuff. We've got obviously like Xero. I use Fathom. With the bigger projects that we've been doing, I've stripped it right back to getting a QS to do the pricing, selling that obviously in our initial content to the client, and then using that template as a line for line item to track the cost of the job. And then as the job goes along, so it's very manual because I really want to understand how it all works. And then as the job goes along, I've just got a list that's broken up into stages of the project. So any problem that we run into, I'll basically just copy and paste it into the stage of the job. And then next time we go to quote a job that's similar, I can be like, okay, well, what do we do? Framing stage, that took too long, or this happened, we needed to order that. So I've just got a little blueprint because I'm always learning. I just want to make sure that I can be the best builder that I possibly can be.
So good. I love that. And there's nothing wrong with not having like it being automated or anything like that, because again, a lot of the time the value is in the planning, not the plan. And what I mean by that is like you need to understand intimately the plan that only comes from doing the planning. Yeah. Like if you handed the plan of a project to even somebody super competent like Brendan, right? If he hasn't done the planning, he doesn't know the intricacies of like, this needs to change if that happens, this needs to change if that happens, and all that sort of stuff. So like sometimes it being manual is a feature, not a bug. It's not something we need to like remove and automate. Sometimes it's like a feature. It's like, oh, it slows us down so that we actually understand what the fuck we're actually trying to do here. And we can be way better at doing it next time. So yeah, like particularly for the size business that we're trying to operate, high profit, great projects, awesome team. Like we don't need to be building a system that helps us scale to like, 75 projects a year or something bananas like that.
No, that's right.
So it needs to be automated and AI driven and this and that. It's like we're just trying to do something different. And therefore like we can have it be manual and not necessarily automated.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say no to some AI tools that can do some of that background stuff for me and some reconciling and things like that. But for when we're at, it's just good to have good eyes on it and be able to see, okay, well, that's how that works. And that's where that margin came from.
Yeah. And it's trust but verify as well, right? So like, for the stages that you're at the moment, you want to like trust that you're making money, but verify that as well and actually go, cool. So like this stage, tell me more. Like let's double click into it. Let's really inspect it and work out where it has leaked some profit or it is making some profit.
It's that's right. It's no different to starting the coaching program and getting a view on those numbers and be like, okay, because you can see the money coming through, but actually know, okay, well that's working, that's not working, or it might be all right and you can keep moving forward. But it's good to have that baseline to know where everything's sitting that you can then build on. You can find the weak points, you can find all the good stuff that's in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. And what have been some of the, so like, on the program, like, you're working with your coach and things like that, and then getting access to some of the tools and templates and the other community pieces. Like, what do you reckon has been the most helpful, impactful, powerful aspect for you?
Like, I think all the material is awesome, and it's great to get that view over your company, to know where things are at and to have all the tools to build out, your wow packs and to track costs and all that sort of stuff. But a real big takeaway and something that I've loved is having the accountability. So actually having people that are behind you, that are supportive of the company, and not just supportive of the company like a friend, but someone that I can actually see the numbers live and actually see what's going on. So I think for me, being like a solo glorified carpenter for so long, internalizing every conversation with the client, like internalizing everything completely, because I just haven't had people around me, to now having a company where there's staff and there's people and there's coaches. It's just that thing is priceless, I think. But besides all that, like all the programs have been great. I wouldn't have been able to build out half the systems that I have, or if I did, it would have taken me years. It's a speedy process. It's the way it's broken up, where you're focusing like three main things. Like you might have a really tug point that you need to get on top of, and you have another couple of things that sort of float there, and you can just chip away at them. You got all the resources, you got all the material, like all the work's basically done for you with a lot of it, and you're just plugging in stuff that you need. So
Awesome. I'm so pleased to hear that. With your journey, it's been, long, and if we just take the snapshot at the moment, it's like, yeah, we're growing 100% a year and we're aiming to grow 50% this year, sort of thing. And you can be mistaken as an outsider looking in to think that shit's always great, and you're the God's gift to capitalism sort of thing. But, as business owners, we all know that's not the reality. What have been some of your more expensive or frustrating mistakes that you you've made and you want to avoid or help others avoid for next time?
Definitely the variation process for us. Like, I've always been a pretty nice guy, so if we're doing a job and there might just be something that's going to take me an hour or so, I'll just be like, yeah, we'll just do that. We'll just do that. But I carried that mindset into as the company got bigger and bigger, and those things got more costly and costly. And sure, like, I was charging for the odd variation if something was just drastic and I didn't think I would do it for free. But I didn't have the things implemented well enough that really defined what the grey was and what was classed as a variation on each specific project. And it got to the point where we did do a big project last year, and there was just a bit of grey, and the client was sort of like, yeah, start off like, yeah, we'll do that because that actually will look good. Won't take that long. We're going to do that. And then the list just got sort of bigger and bigger. And then I feel like he was sort of taking advantage of that as well. And I got to the end of the job. I'm like, that was an expensive lesson. I'm never doing that again. So that was like straight to doing the variation process, making sure I've got all that. So now if we run into something like that, it's on the day, it's signed, it's ready to go.
Yeah, because ultimately you're there to build it, not to be the bank.
Correct.
There are bankers for that, and there are builders for this, and we're here to like run a building company. If we wanted to get into like banking and finance, we would, be in a different field, sort of thing. So yeah. What about like mindset shifts that you've gone through? Like you touched on it at very, very beginning, like going from builder or carpenter to business owner. But like, what have been some of the, like mindset changes or other things that you've had to sort of like remind yourself of?
I think like I've always had builders and people in the industry that I've really looked up to. And I think in some ways I've sort of put them up on a pedestal and thought really highly of them. And I still do. Like, they're all great people. But the more I sort of progressed and the more I worked closely with different builders and different people, I started to sort of realize, because I didn't have a lot of confidence in the early stages. I really felt like I want to know everything before I can like call myself a builder. I don't just want the license. I want to actually be a builder. And the closer I got to the people, I'm like, I just started to see like the characteristics and things that they have, I have too. I'm actually capable of doing this as well. And I think when you work under builders for so long too, it can create this mentality where like you are the carpenter, you are that. And I know stuff probably sounds pretty pedestrian to a lot of builders, but I'm sure there's lots of people out there in similar positions at the moment where they're making that leap from carpenter to builder as well. And I feel like just having the confidence to know your abilities and also to have something behind you to truly understand your numbers of how the company works so you can scale it properly and in a healthy manner. I think that's all like very, very valuable to have. But that's definitely been the biggest mind shift, is just going from this week to week carpenter to be like, no, I'm a builder. There's other people that rely on us as well now. So we need to make sure the work's coming in. Let's look at it holistically. We've got a 12-month period. This is our margin. This is how much we want to make a year, or how many products do we need to sell in the year to hit that. And as it grows, there's going to be little tweaks too, because operating costs will change and different things will change along that way. So making sure we're ahead of the game, we're not playing defense. Yeah.
So good, man. You seem very, not in a negative way, but like wise, content, like comfortable, confident. Like you come across really well. Is that something that you feel like you've fallen into more recently, or have you always been like this?
I probably think it's been a journey for like the last 5 years. Like, I'm pretty relaxed in terms of like, I'm serious about my job,
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
it is just a job. I feel like there's nothing that can really happen in my work day that would warrant me to get angry about something or do something. What's more important for me is my family and things that matter. So I just try and remove myself from it when I'm looking at tasks and different things. It's easy to get caught up in the day and be very in it, but to be able to step back and just be able to take a breath and not really like, it's just work at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great mindset to have. Is that something that you've developed over time? Because or is that because you've just seen it all in your career and you're like, nah, nothing can phase me anymore? Because like what I notice as a business owner in my position, I'm like, the stuff that used to stress me out a couple of years ago, I'm like, bro, that's whatever. Like, I don't, it doesn't phase me at all anymore. So I feel like I've built up a tolerance. Have you built up your tolerance as well? Or do you think like you just like naturally have better perspective by having a family, or like, what is it?
No, I think I'm pretty relaxed, man. Like I put my trust in God a lot. Like I'm a Christian. I follow Jesus. Like I'm really serious about that side of things. So I feel like having that sort of posture and knowing sort of having a good grasp on what's important in life,
Mhm.
everything else sort of comes second to that. So it's easy to sort of be relaxed on things that are like, yeah, it is important. Like I want to create legacy and I want to do things for my kids and I want to do things for their kids as well,
Mhm.
but it's not the be all and end all for me. So, and it's also just a good posture to have. Like, no one wants to work for someone that's just like flipping off their lid and, running 100 miles an hour and saying one thing and doing another. So, I just try and be a man of my word, try and communicate everything the best way I can to my clients, to people around me, to my workers. And I try and be as trustworthy as I possibly can. I just try and make sure that everyone's getting exactly what they need. Like if someone, when we put people on, I always just ask, I don't tell them what the hourly rate is or anything. I just ask them what do you want? And they'll say a number. I'll say that's fine. And you'll know in 2 weeks whether they're worth that number or they might need a pay rise. But always let them set the standards, because if they're getting what they want, they're going to be happy. And if I'm getting what I feel the value of that rate is out of them, then I'm happy too.
Yeah. It's a great way, very holistic again, great way to be looking at it. Like we talk a lot about people leaving managers and opportunities. So people will leave an opportunity because they outgrow that opportunity. They're like, I want more, and you've mentioned at the very beginning of this, like you want to have like a vision or a goal for the company that's big enough to fit other people's visions and goals inside of it. So like you have a big enough opportunity to attract good talent. And then if people aren't leaving because of the opportunity, they're leaving because of the manager. They don't feel like they're respected. They're not feeling like they've been given enough training or learning, or the person's just being a piece of work. And you don't seem like a piece of work at all. You seem great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, nice, dude. Before we land the plane, very insightful conversation. I've really loved having it. You're coming to go literally just down the road from you. Surely you're coming to
Yeah, we're coming. Yeah, we're
yeah.
coming.
Good, good, good. It's like what, 25-minute drive for you? Maybe not even that.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. So good. Who do you want to thank? Because no man's an island, and we all stand on the shoulders of others. So, who would you like to thank and give the flowers to for the support that they've given you over your career?
Like my wife, my parents. Like I started my apprenticeship with my dad. Obviously, Brandon and Cam, who have been a massive help in the company to get it to where it is at the moment. And there's just been so many builders that I've had in my life, and even contract administrators, and so many people that have helped me get to where I am, whether that's, putting me in contact with someone, giving me work, or just picking up the phone and being like, hey, we're running into this thing. Yeah, I've seen that before. This is what I've done to, as a solution.
Mm.
So there's just numerous amount of people. I wouldn't be able to, I'd be sitting here for hours thanking everyone.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. So good. Ben, thank you so much for your time. Super generous in your time, but also generous in your disclosure of stuff that you've gone through, the things that you've learned, and sharing your story. I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about it at the summit. But I'm sure people will be listening to this and be keen to hear it from the horse's mouth when they meet you at the summit as well. So again, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate you.
Likewise, on. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.